Supply chain disruptions have been a persistent challenge in recent years. Now, artificial intelligence is emerging as a powerful new tool to improve efficiency and resilience. But how exactly can AI transform the logistics sector? Joining us now is Jyot Singh, founder and CEO of RTS Labs. Good to have you with us. How is AI being used for predictive analysis and demand forecasting for the systems like Amazon's approach to shipping volumes?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike, for having me. These are interesting times, and supply chain is one of those, as you know, very complex web of intertangled, interdependent nodes that are all working in tandem. And if one goes bad, everything gets backed up, and so on and so forth. And it's a lot going on. Obviously, you talk about suppliers, manufacturers, shippers, retailers, and consumers. By the end of the day, they all need everything in a timely fashion. With AI being in the mix now, there are a lot of really good use cases coming in with AI. And the first one, I would say, as you said, demand forecasting. So as you know, it's a challenge that has been plaguing the supply chain industry for a long time. As for last 20, 30 years, we've been capturing a lot of information, from a historical standpoint. And now using those data points, we can predict. We have models like regression and many other things that can help us predict what the future demand would be. And that is where AI could come in and very useful. We're also, with the rise and growth of Gen AI, we're also seeing even bigger opportunities where you can now plug in some sentiment analysis, some other factors that were traditionally not available in the modeling. So now we're even doing better and better when it comes down to demand forecasting.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting times. I'll be curious to know how my package is doing coming from Amazon today. But how does AI optimize delivery routes by factoring in real-time traffic, weather, and I guess other variables that can affect transportation of goods?
Well, Mike, as you know, last mile delivery is the most expensive part of the supply chain ring, right? As you call it. The struggle for the last mile is that then the route, it's the last 15, 20 miles that is the most expensive one. And the reason why this is expensive is because you're going through the way urban development has happened, the routes that are always, high trafficked. You got, road closures and many other things, and that gets really, really expensive. So there are a lot of companies, including UPS, have come up with some really cool technology where they can leverage route optimization based on certain deliveries. So in one way, they can also create, as you know, some of the historical stories have been, how you go and always take right turns, right? Mm-hmm. So that is one way of solving this, but using sensors that are in trailers, sensors they are in traffic signals, and many other places. You can look at how the traffic is moving and then change the route accordingly without having to have any human intervention. And I feel that is where you will see more and more investment being made from an AI perspective, which in turn will help your packages come to you at a little bit lower cost.
Fantastic. That's what we want to hear. So how can AI improve vendor management and procurement efficiency through smart contracts and, of course, automated execution as well? A couple of questions in there.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think the way we're looking at, and I think we've implemented some of these use cases with some of our logistics clients. If you think about it, going back to the original statement that I made, supply chain is very interdependent on each other. By the end of the day, you're still working with a vendor, you're still working with a manufacturer, you're still working with a shipper. And if those vendors are not staying true to the credit, for example, and traditionally these vendors are also not very good when it comes down to running a business, right? And your business kind of is dependent on them performing really, really well when it comes down to operations. Sadly, it's not the case, especially when it comes down to transportation logistics. So what happens is there are kind of signals, there are certain data points that we capture, and we make those data points available to the companies, and leveraging that, we can figure out who could be a high-risk client. high risk vendor. And then you can also figure out whether you should give high volume loads to that particular vendor if they are not able to sustain that in a timely fashion. So leveraging those data points, signals, obviously that applies to contracts because onboarding becomes very delayed. So we can certainly use contracts to make this happen as well.
Okay, so certainly interesting times for the sector. Jode, what role does digital twin revolution play in supply chain management, and how does it help test what-if scenarios for businesses out there looking to get things shipped faster?
So I'm not sure if you know this, Mike, but Gartner predicted that by 2026, 60% of global supply chain will use digital twin. Okay. So essentially, digital twin is nothing but it's a virtual replica of your entire supply chain. So when people talk about what if, they are talking about if one of those nodes, for example, one of your manufacturer is not performing to your expectation, or there are certain geopolitical high tariff situation, as President Trump has done, then you have to figure out which country you need to do business with. It becomes very, very tricky because that means you will not get your goods to fulfill your commitments to your client in a timely fashion. And that's where you can replicate the entire supply chain of your company by applying this virtual, digital twin on the net. So you can simulate a lot of what-if scenarios, and then that's what you do to make it real and apply those to the real world.
Jode, it's very clever technology and exciting times ahead. If people want to find more about this topic or perhaps engage with you and your team in some assistance, where's the best place to go?
Absolutely. rtslabs.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. A lot of followers, a lot of posts that are very useful on when it comes down to AI. Jode Singh would be the best way to search on LinkedIn. So those are the two places you can find me.
Great stuff from you, and appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to have a chat to us right here on Ticker. Hopefully speak again soon.
Thank you for having me.